You're listening to the Totally Indian Football Show by Humans of Indian Football.
When you ask people about whether they like the sport Kalpant, which is football, they do like it and they kind of enjoy amidst hue and cry here and there, if you know the clubs that they support, the teams that they support. But here's a man on this show who's probably had a journey from Kalpant to then opening up a project called Happyano. So which translates into if you're happy. So let's just ask him. Maybe by end of this episode, you'll know more about him and what he does. Let me welcome Nevin Thomas to the show. Welcome to the show, Nevin.
Hi, Siju, and thank you for inviting me to the show. Very interesting that you put it that way, that people will have mixed feelings about Kalpandar. I think it's kind of similar with me as well. I also have mixed feelings about Kalpandar. It is a product that I made and I thoroughly enjoy. But then you, as somebody who's also been in the scene, know it's been an up and down journey for me as well. So yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly in your intro.
Let's start with the show. Basically, everyone knows most of the Indian football people who follow the sport and may also the ones who are covering the sport know you. But the largest section, I think, in this episode will prove out to be a good eye opener for them to what you do and what is Kalpant and what is Happyano and everything that's in between that you do. But before that, you mentioned when we put out this tweet of to ask our followers to send in their questions. You mentioned that you had something before Kalpant, which was Tenga Kola. Why? What are you obsessed? Why are you so obsessed with these Malayalam puns or the words?
I don't know. So in some sense, the first job that I ever did was with this place called Salt Mango Tree, which as fellow Malayalis we know it sort of translates to upma, and it's got like completely different meaning to that as well. So I think since my first job, I've always been trying to integrate Malayalam in some sense, and also the fact that I've been mostly catering to that audience, so that Malayali or Kerala has always been my target audience. So it sort of made sense for me to put a name that resonates. So Tenga Kola was something fun that we started post our graduation. So it was just three of us, and I mean, technically three of us. There were a lot of people involved, and they helped and all that. We started a social media page, and we were those early players in social media marketing. We wanted to, tie up with brands, and this is the time when these Facebook ads was not existing. There was no paid promotion. It was all organic back then. So we wanted to, build a brand that would do social media marketing for them, and also our own brand, Tenga Kola's whole objective was to improve budget travel across Kerala. So we came up with these, things that you can do in Kerala with less than 200 rupees. And we wanted to eventually get into merchandise and things like that. But you know how it is with when you're like 21, 22-year-olds. Capital was never there, so we ran out of steam after a few months. Then one of my friends got into Indian Institute of Science, the other guy got into Suzuki. So I also like gave up and started doing other things like blogging and other things like that. But yeah, so the first venture was actually called Tenga Kola. It's still there. The pages still exist, and since the name is catchy for a lot of Malayalis, we do keep getting a lot of likes now and then. But yeah, started off with Facebook and travel. So it's not always been football for me.
Yeah, I must also tell our listeners that I mean the non-Malayali listeners on of this show that you can probably hear a lot of Malu slang on this show, and don't expect us to translate because that just loses the whole meaning once we translate. So
Absolutely.
anyway,
Like imagine translating Tenga Kola into bunch of coconuts. It's not literally the same,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I was trying to do that. To our friend Vinay on our HOIF group, and I'm like, that's what it means. But that's the only thing I can tell you. The other way I can tell you it's a slang for other things that we do.
Exactly.
We speak in Malayalam. So yeah, but definitely a lot of learnings from the show. But Nevin, as I understand, you were more into social media marketing and content creation, and you also had a stint as writing and stuff. So when was it that you got to football and wanted to make writing about football and talking about football and being basically a football storyteller? When was that? When did that start?
So I was always into football as well, but more into playing football and supporting Chelsea. So really, like, I wasn't really looking at Indian football at all, and I was just scared about the Premier League. I was just the typical urban youth, just fascinated by one English club and loved playing it. So I've always played football. So I think I was doing my postgrad in Bombay, and we had to do a master's thesis. And so I happened to take this sevens football as my thesis topic. We were doing as I mean, so I sort of stumbled upon this topic. This was my seventh topic that I pitched to my faculty. The first six they rejected, and seventh topic was sevens football and the socio-economic impact of the game there. And they're like, okay, this makes sense. This is something that you can also go and do. So I remember on my 23rd birthday, I left home and I went for my research. I watched the sevens football match, and that's probably the start of it all. I was like, wow, football is serious, and a lot of people do care. And I was always looking at the socio-political, cultural impact of the game as well. And so while what is happening inside the ground was fascinating, and I love football, I was always looking at, who are the people attending, why are women not there, or what class do they represent. And so I relied a lot of my thesis is majorly on ethnographic studies and tech description and things like that, so it's a lot of observation of what is going around football. And then I think I just got hooked. And after my postgrad, I had two options. I could choose for a career in sports, and I could choose for a career in environment conservation and things like that. So it was a very difficult decision because there were two things that I was really passionate about. But then I chose sports, and the first stint I had, I was working with Sports Interactive, and I was part of the Pro Kabaddi marketing and social media team. So I worked 6 months there. And then I got into Hindu when Sports Star was becoming digital. So this is a magazine that we all loved while growing up. We all wanted the posters, and it's something that it's got so much nostalgic value. And the moment I heard Sports Star, I was like, I need to apply, and I got the job. So I was part of that team that transitioned from the magazine. It's still there, the magazine is still there, but when they opened the digital, we were all part of the whole digital team. And I think that is my introduction to journalism, even though I have interned with Midday while I was in college, and I was freelancing for them as well. I think sports journalism sort of hit me when I joined Sportstar. And then it's been like that. I guess that's my entry into football.
And what pushed you to start Kalpant? And you did mention that you were always close to the people in Kerala, and even as you started sevens as part of your thesis while you were studying. But what pushed you to start a channel that brings stories from Kerala?
It's actually a very complicated story, and it starts from surprisingly enough, Chennai City owner Rohit Ramesh's room, his office actually. I was called to his office while I was working at the Hindu to be introduced to four footballers, which were Edwin and Susairaj and Nanda and I think Pandian. So four players were there in that room that day, and I was noting down where they are from and their phone numbers and things like that. And when Nanda said Vyasarpadi, I was like, hey, I don't know Vyasarpadi. Where in Tamil Nadu is Vyasarpadi? So as I remember going back and Googling and finding it a very interesting space, socio-cultural, economic, it all sort of fit my area of interest. And I was like, whoa. And there is a lot of football happening there. So for listeners, this is North Chennai or Vada Chennai. And a lot of, there is a stigma attached to North Chennai that it's for the evil people, or there are a lot of gundas there, a lot of drug abuse there. So I wanted to go see it for myself, what this is and how football is helping them, or if football is helping them. But unfortunately, while I was working at Sports, it didn't really work out. And then I went to First Post, worked there for like a good 1.5 years. And then when I finally left that job, I was very certain that I wanted to make a documentary. So I left the job, and 2 days I was in Chennai and I was shooting this documentary. I had no access to that space, so took my own sweet time making friends. And I think the entire project took around a month. shooting and just making friends, because access to these spaces aren't easy for an outsider, especially if you can't speak Tamil so well. So then I made this film. Again, I was very confused as to what to do with it. I had conversation with a few publications, but it really didn't work out. And I think I sat with that film for over a year, which means I then worked with Minerva Punjab for a season. Even during the season, I kept looking at the film and I was like, what do I do with it? And it was after that, a couple of friends sort of said that, maybe you should start your own channel and put it out there, and we can promote it and let people see. What is the whole point of sitting with a film and not showing people? So that is the origin of Kalpanda. So there was not a lot of thought behind it. The whole idea was to create a channel to put this particular movie. So it sort of clicked. A lot of good feedback came my way, and I was like, hey, maybe I can do this more frequently, and that's how I sort of started the channel.
I didn't expect that story, but I think that's the beauty about a lot of things that we do, especially as you can call what journalists do or storytellers do. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes, and I think that's the most interesting when you actually sit down with the content creators. That how did they get about that? And that's really interesting because in Vesapadi, that entire series that you started with that video, it just went crazy because it's something that every storyteller would want to do, but not everyone can do. So I think hats off to you for pulling that off, and the whole journey behind that. You mentioned we all know that you did have a small stint with Minerva Punjab. If I can ask you this, how is it to work with Mr. Bajaj?
He is a polarizing figure for sure. Like, you know him from social media, and he's not really different in real life as well. But I think I have great respect for him in terms of his vision and in terms of the work he puts in. I don't think I have met any boss that puts so much work. He is mad about football. He's just like, I like previous nights, 2 matches, so match day -1, match day -2. I don't think he even sleeps. He prepares. He studied the opposition so much. That is insane. Sometimes I think the players fail to grasp it because there's so much information being given to them in the last few days. But in terms of preparation, in terms of vision, I think he's perhaps the only person who's made some profit out of Indian football. So to have done that, to have these many kids play at multiple, national teams, and so I mean, hats off to him. And he didn't do it with like a lot of money and all that. He had his restrictions in terms of the wealth he had. He put it, and he challenged a lot of norms. So all in that regards, I have the highest respect for him. There are problems with the teams. Let's not. I don't want to say that it's all clean and it's all nice there. There are definitely problems with the teams, but I think in this podcast, I want to highlight the fact that people don't sometimes realize that he's also he's an absolute workaholic. He works a lot, and it is through his work, I think, that empire called Minerva was built.
Yeah, interesting, because that actually translates. I mean, you already mentioned that he is more or less what you see on Twitter, or his tweets rather. And I think that kind of resonates the person that he is, because, definitely passionate, and you can see that how mad he is. But yeah, I mean, talking about not being clean, then we'll have a lot of episodes talking about a lot of people or institutions that are not clean. But anyway, we'll keep that.
I think Indian football is marred with so many of those stories that sometimes we have to turn blind to it, because I mean, it's not something you and I can change, and I'm sure they have reasons for going that route as well. So it's from top to bottom, and like you said, that'll be an entire podcast on its own.
Yeah, and it's off the record podcast that we always have.
Exactly.
It's like catching up with football people on WhatsApp or calls. But now moving on to talking about Kalpant, which is football, in general. What are your thoughts on, you've been following Kerala football closely. if you are right now currently based in Kerala and you've been doing many projects from there as well, Kalpant has seen a lot of things, and the things that you do with Jitin as well, player agent, and you've been talking about a lot of things. You're also currently covering the Kerala Premier League. I mean, you've been watching the matches. So your thoughts on general about Kerala football?
It's difficult to sum it up, I guess. Definitely, in terms of potential, there's a lot of potential in the state. And I don't necessarily mean Malabar and Malappuram and Kozhikode and all that. I think right from Trivandrum, there's a lot of great, talented footballers out there. Slowly but steadily, I think the likes of Gokulam and Blasters and these KPL teams are slowly starting to tap into it. But I still think they miss a lot of not Blasters or Gokulam, but I think the other teams have still not really figured out how to make money, how to get sponsors, how to ensure that players' career is not stunted. So the problem is that when a KPL only lasts for 2 months or 1.5 months, so these players are only given contracts for 3 months. And 3 months is not enough for players to survive an entire year. So they are, bound to take up some other work or go play sevens or, look for other opportunities. And you can't blame them. 3 months of employment is not enough in a year. So these are the challenges I think that needs to be first catered to. Ensure that at least a good 400, 500 players are getting proper yearly salary and proper training, access to grounds and things like that. Because as much as we keep talking about Kerala football culture, the number of grounds are dwindling so much. The number of tournaments have reduced so much. So these the departments have stopped hiring a lot of footballers. They're all temporary hires. It's no longer like full-time jobs. So it is really affecting players, because if I were coming from a lower middle class family or a poor family, I would really be hesitant to take up a career as a footballer, because really, like, unless I make it to a Kerala Blasters or a Gokulam, there's really nothing out there, and it's a struggle, right? Because not everybody can reach that level. And even if you reach that level, it's not like you're going to be there for 20 years, 30 years to earn enough. You're probably going to be there for like 2-3 years. So that, I think, is the biggest challenge Kerala football is facing in terms of culture, in terms of audience, in terms of even social media. I'm sure you will also know this. Like, the moment we put something regarding Kerala Blasters, we get so much engagement. So in all that side, I think there is fabulous growth. I just feel that now the focus should be on football and footballers also, and hopefully, they have thought of something called the Kerala Super League, which is be like a glorified form of KPL with more facilities, better coverage, and all that. So hopefully these things will come into place soon. There will be better broadcasts and telecasts, so people can see it. So it is improving, but I still feel Kerala is not up to the mark in so many. Even when you compare it with so many other states, for example, even for all the controversies that surrounds West Bengal and Kolkata, there's still better football there. Goan leagues are doing really well. So I think it's really up for Kerala to really tap into these audience and interests and really produce good footballers.
Now, since you yourself mentioned the whole KPL going into a new thing, getting into probably franchisee, it's also one of the questions that were asked to us, and I had in mind to ask you, what are your thoughts? I mean, if you can probably in a little more talk about it, do you actually think this being, creating that buzz, and not just the buzz, because I don't think Kerala lacks the buzz for football, and just rightly as you mentioned, you need to tap into that. So do you think that this format would help tap into those areas?
Ideally, it should, but again, I'm nobody to really comment. It's not like I have numbers and I've studied this enough to really come and give a conclusive answer. From my little understanding of having worked with football in the state, I also feel this is probably a controversial statement, but I sort of feel that we are more tournament oriented in some sense. We like shorter tournaments with more glamour and glitz than these league formats. So because we've seen so many tournaments from the 70s and 80s and 90s, these Chakolas and Nagjis and whatnot. So I think that is really not died, because those generations are the one who inspires the next generation to come and, watch football. So when our fathers talk about, having attended these tournaments and they talk about the atmosphere, we really crave to attend those kind of things. And unfortunately, in the last 15 years, I have not been able to, or I've not had access to these kind of tournaments. So I still feel for Kerala to really, tap into that audience and potential. And that's what I think Sevens is doing really well. Sevens tournaments are short, they're usually like 2 weeks, 3 weeks long. And it's like a carnival atmosphere. They come, they enjoy. There's food, there's noise, there's probably mostly played under lights. So everything is convenient. So people can go to work and then come attend the matches. So I still feel while the Kerala Premier League, Kerala Super League is brilliant for, identifying players, getting the right team to play in the national leagues and all that, I still feel we need more tournaments. That is going to create that buzz, and that is going to get a lot of more people involved in football. And Sevens is doing it in some extent, but we want to do it in 11s because that's a different ball game. We want our young players who are like 16, 17, 18 playing 11s football regularly. We don't want them playing sevens. I mean, I have nothing against sevens per se, but I still feel like in terms of development, we need these players to be playing proper regular football so that once they, get into a KPL team or a KSL team, they are not struggling in terms of fitness, in terms of vision, in terms of how to play football. So I think that gap needs to be plugged. More tournaments would definitely help. I'm nobody to really talk about whether KSL is going to make a significant difference from KPL because it's similar, right? In terms of format, in terms of how it's played, it's similar. It's just that it's franchisee, and the expectation is that they'll get in a better broadcaster, but they've not been able to do it for KPL. So why should we think that's going to be significantly different for KSL?
Okay, so what do you think what does it mean for Kerala football? The first I-League trophy to ever come to Kerala, I mean, a club from Kerala, Gokulam Kerala FC lifts that trophy. What does this do for the larger picture of Kerala football? How does that boost?
I'm kind of sad that I think Gokulam didn't get the credit they deserve. I kind of thought that there was more coverage for the Durand Cup success than the I-League. And unfortunately, I think they got caught in the whole election drama, that everything was going on in that month, that their victory really didn't get highlighted. Not a lot of politicians took it up. Not a lot of film stars took it up. I felt really bad for Gokulam because this is a huge achievement for, a national league to come to our state, to have, a young team to have done that. Success. I mean, in 2-3 years, we've had like 2 big trophies coming to Kozhikode, and this is Malabar, and this is the home for football. And unfortunately, for them to really not, get the conversation that they deserve, get the publicity that they deserve is quite sad. And I hope that maybe post this election drama that people still talk about it. What Gokulam has achieved is no mean feat. Yeah, like they've won the Women's League, they won the Men's I-League, they've won the Durand Cup. So I don't know. I mean, I still feel the buzz is missing because if I remember when I was in school, when Chak De came, we saw a movie, we started playing hockey in our school. A film could inspire so much. So an actual cup should be inspiring a lot more kids to take up football. I wanted media channels to be really talking extensively to these players, to coaches, to the team management about, how they did it, what they did it. Because people don't understand otherwise. It's up to the media, it's up to people with some power to really tell, hey, this is actually a massive achievement. So I personally feel sitting here in Kerala, that publicity has really not really worked. I mean, not a lot of people talk about Gokulam's success. Could be due to the election fever, but still quite unfortunate. And it is unfortunate because I think it is part of Kerala's football development, right? To have a team achieve all this. So I hope more is done. I hope we keep talking about the success, and I hope we can build on it. But unfortunately, sitting here in Kochi, I feel it is not talked about enough.
Well, talking about you being in Kochi, let's talk about the club that's based out of Kochi. And Kerala Blasters is the team that I'm going to ask you about. And when it started with ISL, okay, that was you can credit where it's due probably, and you can give Kerala Blasters and ISL for that. That there was a club after a very long time. and they were taking up the ranks, and they really showed up in the first season, right? But a lot of things didn't go right, and mainly to do so off the pitch, right? It's behind,
Yeah,
it's at the management level. And
yeah.
you must have seen, I mean, the reason even I take a dig at the club is, no, I don't have any issue with anybody else, but just the way it's
Mm-hmm.
run.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel that they are not using the potential that Kerala has. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
it's everything at their doorstep, right? The ball is in their court because
Yeah.
everything is ready. They don't have to start a culture of football. They don't have to start looking for players. I mean, in the sense that they didn't have to start anything from scratch in terms of developing the sport or the player or getting the difficulty part of that. But just to run a club which has, and even the fans are there at your disposal. So it just feels really, one is unfair, and then the fans get to you, because of the whole the club that's not showed up because as much as they should have, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other fans take a dig at, and then that's how it goes, right? So it just so happens that it's always the fans at the gunpoint kind of a situation.
Yeah, correct.
They are always pinpointed because of the
Yeah.
whole furor that they put up, right? But what do you think? I mean, why can't Kerala Blasters run a successful club, a football club?
I think I'm sure they ask these questions to themselves as well. It's see if you look at the amount of money they spent and all, it's not really like say behind. Maybe it's not 80K Mumbai levels, but definitely they've also spent money. But again, bizarre decisions and like why do you bring these players? I mean, so it really goes down to the think tank of the team, and like you keep wondering, well, what are they thinking? What is the logic behind the signing? Why do we need to so many issues, yeah, like you said, I think whatever you highlighted is absolutely true with regards to Kerala Blasters, and they have like a dedicated fan following. My God, like that is something I think all the other teams are envious about, but here's a management who's really not understood how to use them in terms of giving them the right activities, giving them the support, and also on pitch success. I think nothing speaks louder. You need some, success on the pitch, some continuity of projects. So all that is a problem. But I mean, I know personally a few people working there. I can also sort of see a change in trend because I think initially they lacked that Malayali connect. They had this fantastic project, but they didn't really know how to connect to Kerala audience. And I think there they sort of faltered in getting why they should have gotten more people from the state. And I know it sounds very, I mean, you should support the state and not hire. No, that's not what I'm trying to indicate. But like Kerala's got a distinct fan culture, and you need somebody who's worked with it. It can be somebody from outside the state also, but somebody who's spent enough time to really understand how to tap into it, and also where to tap. How do we get the players from Kerala? How do you identify? They've got a Sahal or a Rahul KP, but they should be doing more, right? Considering the fact that they've been around for a while, and I think everybody in Kerala wants to play for Kerala Blasters. I mean, if a Bangalore comes calling, they might go, but I think when they start off, the biggest aim is like to play for Kerala Blasters. So they've got easy access. They can call a parent and say, we want your kid, and I'm sure 80% of the parents will let the kid go. So all that is lacking, and I really hope that one can only hope, right? It's not like you can go to Kerala Blasters management and say, hey, I want this done, that done. One can only hope that they understand the gold mine they're sitting on and start working on it. I think they should just look at their neighbors. They should just look at Gokulam. I think they've had limited resources. They've not really had the same kind of fan support. And despite all that, they were very clear that they wanted success, and they've gone out there and done it. I mean, what else can you ask for? They won the I League, they won the Women's League, they won the Turin Cup and all that. So probably just look at the neighbors and say, hey, how did they get the success? What was their mantra? Can we try implementing it here in Kerala Blasters as well? And I think hopefully they realize it, yeah, because they are burning cash right now and there's not really a lot of return. So success is what can sell. Success is what is going to bring you a new brand tomorrow. If you want an Adidas to sponsor your kit, you need success, unless you're a real Kashmir. But like you need success on pitch, and I hope they do something about it soon.
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned, there are a few individuals at the club trying to do the good part of it, but I feel there are some who are probably a stumbling block for that. I could be wrong, but I don't want to pick any
That
names
is
now.
what we
So
hear, but
yeah,
yeah, we can't really like make guesses from here.
yeah,
But
exactly.
obviously there is some problem because if you look at the number of signings and how they've been paid and who they have been signed from, which agencies related, there seems something murky about the whole setup. But we can't sit here and accuse because we really don't know what is going behind the scenes. Maybe they really did think that these players are going to perform. Yeah, it's just based on a lot of guesses, I guess.
True, and like you said, I mean, hopefully we try to see Kerala Blasters doing what we probably wanted them to see, doing, perform at the level, or at least give us that performance that they had in the first season, where they really deserved to win the title, but went down in the last minute. So
Yeah.
going beyond now, coming back to the stories that you've done so far, right? In terms only specifically with Kalpant, that the story that you've put out for Kalpant, or you have stories at your disposal and you are yet to publish it. From that bunch, if I had to
Mhm.
ask you, what were your best ones so far? Or,
Oh
just
my
like you
God.
mentioned, the first one you had a story to it, but if you had to pick one or two out of the lot, and the one that you enjoyed thoroughly, like, you're like, okay, I just want to do this and put this out, and I want to share it, like desperately want to share it with people I know. So
Yeah, I mean, so it is like basically you're asking a parent to choose favorite kid. It's very difficult to choose. Probably because Siju, the fact is that I've only gone out and done stories that I really love because it's my channel and there is no compulsion or I'm not chasing some, targets or anything. I've only done stories that I really love. So each story has a backstory which is fascinating. So I got to meet Simon Sundaraj sir. He was the coach of Kerala Santosh Trophy team when they first won it in 1971. And so I found him. I found his number somehow, and I realized that he stays somewhere in Tanjavur. So impulsively, I had to take a train from Chennai to Tanjavur, go find his house, spend an evening there, and you come out so much richer with experience. Unfortunately, these videos, these stories really don't tell. I don't think I do even 30% justice to the experience that I've had to be there, to sit through there. And it's often very hard hitting also. Their stories are often very sad also. The fact that somebody as big as him, he scored India's last goal in the Olympics. It's the same Olympics that India held France to a draw and have played a great match against Hungary. And Hungary is a time when like the likes of Puskas are playing there. So to sit there and experience that, I had this great story in Gujarat as well. So I was covering the Intercontinental Cup. I heard about these girls in Patan village, Patan district, and Sampra village. So somehow, this is all very like instantaneous. Okay, it's not like a lot of planning. I get one number. That's all I have. One phone number. So I take a bus from Ahmedabad to Patan, and then I reach Patan, and this phone number is not connecting. So I've traveled like 4 or 5 hours, and like now I don't know what to do. So I talked to a lot of people to figure out if there is some story like that. But Sampra is too far off. It's not like a village that even in Patan city they know about. But luckily, one guy said, "Huh, I've heard of this place, and this is in Sampra. So why don't you take an auto from here? Oh, it's a long auto journey, so I take an auto there. Then we reach, then we go to a different school. Then they say, no, this is not that school. Then this school. Then by then the phone connects, and I spent an evening there, and I was like a chief guest there because nobody they were fascinated by the fact that some Malayali, this 6 feet too tall guy with a camera and tripod has come searching for them, and so they gave me sweets. I had like a good time telling their story. I had to come back that evening itself. So unlike Vyasar Padi, this is like a day video. So I just shot that day and came back. And I think the biggest happiness is when your stories have a certain impact. So the story sort of became popular within the Gujarat circles, and these girls were given an actual academy and uniforms and jerseys and all that. And in Vyasarpadi, a architect student from Madurai saw the Vyasarpadi documentary, was inspired by it. He went and he made a new plan for an artificial turf and things like that. he pitched it for a competition and he won the competition, so they're getting a new turf. So for your films or for your videos to have some sort of impact it's a very humbling experience to just be there and just be happy that, oh God, thank God that you felt that urge to go do this story and it's had this sort of impact. A lot of people ask me this question: are you unhappy that just 1,000 views for your video or 2,000 views for your video? And I'm like, strangely enough, it is 1,000th that matters who watched that video for me. So I am not really unhappy that 2 million people haven't watched this video, because we are a small fraternity, Indian football, and I'm just happy that they, or my target audience, or my, people who should be watching the stories are watching it. And that's all I care.
Yeah, and I guess what you've done through your stories is knowingly, unknowingly, the purpose of that particular subject was met. Like, that's the whole reward of it, right? I think it just gives you that immense happiness. Now, talking about immense happiness, let's talk about how happy you are and the project that's called Happy Arno, which I believe you started this, has nothing to do with football, but has something else more crazy that Kerala is about. That's their elections and politics. So you started this with 3 of your friends, and it was right before the election this year, right?
Yeah. So it's basically not my brainchild in any sense. Shrutin and Nidish, both are journalists. They had this sort of they were talking to a documentary maker, and she introduced them to this French documentary called Chronicles of a Summer, in which these sociologists went around France and asked people if they were happy. So they got really inspired with the idea and thought maybe we can do something for Kerala and Kerala elections. And initially they told me in like early March, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But like when they again approached me around like March 10th or something, and they wanted to do it they wanted to start on March 14th. I was like, maybe I should just like with Kalpan, the stories, just follow my heart and just do this. So yeah, 3 of us got in a car and traveled from the northernmost district, Kasaragod, to Trivandrum. We had like a lot of stories, a lot of personal challenges as well. But I think the essence of Happy Arno was this statement that I think a lot of sociologists use. It's that personal is very political, and a lot of people keep forgetting that fact. We keep asking politicians what is the problem. We keep asking, lawmakers what is the problem. When the problem or the happiness or what is making people happy is really down to the people. You need to really go to the people and ask these questions, and you get these really wonderful answers. I don't know if you've got a chance to see a lot of these videos, but there are boys from Kasaragod who said they're upset that they can't modify their vehicles. And then you sort of then start questioning, is it freedom of expression to modify your vehicles, and or is it public nuisance? And then there is another girl who points out, my city is super clean, but there's no way to dispose sanitary napkins. And so we were touching stories that politicians are not talking about. We're touching stories that nobody cared about. The few politicians that we actually met, we asked them about climate change and we grilled them that way. So it was a fun exercise. Again, as with most of my projects, it's not really great on your pocket because it was mostly self-funded, and we had our ups and downs there as well. But very happy when I look back, and also a personal journey, right? To have traveled your state, the place that you're supposed to know, but again, it's a very humbling experience to go throughout the state and understand so many stories, understand how what a lot of people, especially in the margins, like in Wayanad, in tea plantations in Idukki, in the coastal line, what they are feeling about Kerala and what they connect with the Kerala model or how they don't connect with it. So again, a great, fascinating lesson. We're all back home safe and sound, but yeah, it was an adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't be wrong if I said that, through the journey of Kalpant and Happy Arno, I'm sure you've got good at your geography now. The places that you never thought you would go, you went there,
Absolutely.
and you've also since you've shared them with the people, even the larger section of the people know those places as well. So
Yeah.
that's absolutely great, and I think that's the whole beauty about people who tell
I've started
stories.
collecting maps. It's become an
Nice.
obsession now. So whenever I go, I actually get like hard copies of maps because
Yeah.
somehow Google Maps it's restricted to your screen, right? So you have to keep moving from one place to and then pinching, and it really doesn't give you that same screen size like opening a full map and looking from one corner to the other. So also slowly started obsessing about maps. So you're spot on about geography. I really am starting to
Yeah.
obsess about it.
Yeah, and I think every map you can have a story written on it. That itself would be a story because it's always exciting when you get onto a trip, right? So when we did, since you mentioned that, when we did this HOIF in Kerala trip,
Hmm.
I was very excited. I was like, okay, let's do this in a proper way. I took a printout of the entire map.
Wow.
Okay, how does it look? Okay, this is where we're going to cover, and this is the north side of it. That's the only thing we can do because the whole of state of Kerala is huge, and even
Yeah,
if you just do north, you can't do it in one trip.
correct.
So we missed
Yeah.
out on a one, two or three districts, and still we spent 15 days. And we were like, okay, we do this in this way, and the whole planning is so much of fun.
Yeah,
Only
I
if there
agree.
was somebody else to document that.
Oh, I know. Even with Happy Hour, we keep saying that what we were talking to each other and
Yeah.
things like that. I think that would have been really fascinating to watch later at a later point.
We are almost concluding this episode, but we had asked our followers of Humans of Indian Football to send us your questions, and
Hmm.
so we'll get on to that. We didn't get many. I think people are still getting used to of our new format that we've started of getting guests like you and otherwise whoever are related to Indian football, and
Hmm.
actually asking the followers to get their questions answered. So maybe this is a start. We'll get more
Hmm.
getting on, and I think Nevin will be part of our show regularly after this debut that he's made. We have a couple of questions on Twitter as well as Instagram. I'll take Twitter first. I think partly you answered this question while we were having a conversation. This is from Twitter user Roshan G. He's at the rate Roshan G underscore K. He says, hello Nevin, what is your opinion to the plans of KFA for Kerala football? What could be the consequences for a club like Kovalam FC? And he also says, thank you for doing the great work in Happyano.
Thanks, Roshan. I think it's very difficult to explain because I'm yet to really find out what is the significant jump in quality from KPL to KSL. So they are saying it'll be better broadcast, and since it's franchisee model, probably going to be played only in the night. But where is the infrastructure for it? And if you can get a broadcaster or a telecaster, why are we not doing it for KPL? So there are a lot of questions. So the whole KFA plan to revamp Kerala football is really right now based on a lot of guesswork. So I am going to just sit back and observe, and I think it's probably better that I comment on it a little later once they start implementing it. And thank you for that comment on Happy Anno. It was a great project, and we've discussed that also in the podcast. And talking about Kovalam FC especially, it's funded by the right kind of people. They are sitting on what I think is a gold mine of footballers, a lot of good footballers from that coastal belt, say from Trivandrum to Kanyakumari. There's a lot of footballers there. So if they can focus on finding the right players from within and not really obsessing about getting footballers from outside, I think they have the potential to go big. But it really depends on whether they understand this, understand what they're sitting on, and also I think it's important that they eke out a plan. Right now, I think the club has multiple directions that they want to take. I think the management wants to focus on academies as per Coach Eben Rose. He himself is more keen on getting the team on to a platform like the ISL. So it's a mixed bag right now. It's very difficult to comment, but I can vouch for the fact that having spent a lot of time in and around that area, there's a lot of football and a lot of footballers there. So hopefully they can tap into that.
Great. I think moving on to some questions from Instagram that we got, and I think this again we know this person very well, Nishant. He's also a journalist from Kerala. His handle is Nishant Writes, and he asks, "Hello, Devin. As a video producer who has worked with multiple brands, what are the three most common mistakes you spot on football video content on social media?
Okay, hi Nishant. Thanks for asking a very tough question. I really don't know the answer because I don't think I'm qualified to answer. That's the honest truth. I am nobody to sort of say this is what it should be or this is what it should not be. And in fact, I've been super jealous of a lot of content that I've seen. I love superpower videos. I think they've good production. They've got good graphics. I think Ankush is natural on camera, so that also helps. I love Devanjan and what he does with the Foodie Traveler. So there's a lot of good content out there. So I mean, I'm more of a fan. I'm more of an audience, just like all of us here. Okay, I mean, I forgotten the fact that I'm actually talking to fellow content producers. They've made great videos as well. So it's just, yeah, it is. I mean, I can't really pinpoint what is wrong. Maybe I can highlight a few things that have helped me in the process or something that I've learned. One is to stay true to your process. So if your channel is supposed to be catering to the mass, go out there, be outwardly, be hit the SEO, be frequent with your videos. That's very important because that's your target audience. But if you want it to be niche or you want to be documentary, I think it's okay to not really worry about the audience and focus on your storytelling. So whatever is your plan for your channel, stick to it because halfway through or like 2 days into it, you will hear a lot of advices. A lot of people will come say, this is what you should be doing, this is what you should not be doing. And they all come from a very nice space. They all want to help you and they really care about you, but nobody really understands the vision like you do. So I think it's very important that you stick to your vision. And secondly, I think with a lot of content, I see we're getting very lazy by sitting at home. I would urge people, and I'm not encouraging travel during Corona times, but I would encourage you to at least visit your local club, get the story out, try shooting outdoors, try getting a few other things because I think we're all sitting at our tables and it's just commentary after commentary about what has happened in the game, what players should be doing different. And I would encourage, and I'm sure Siju as a journalist and everybody involved with HOIF also will agree with me, is that a lot of things happen beyond what we can see on the screen. So I would encourage a lot of people to go get out and see football, see local football, spend time with footballers and things like that. So I think that's 2 points, I guess. And yeah, I think, and be true to yourself. I feel like a motivation speaker here, but just be very true because if you aren't, see, sometimes a lot of people look at my Twitter feed and say that you are not a journalist. You joke around. You're horny in the night. You're funny in the morning. You are hungry in the afternoon. It's very difficult to really find a trend. But like, I mean, and I am not kidding. It has disturbed me a lot of times. I've stopped tweeting and things like that. But at the end of the day, you are who you are, and I think it should reflect in your channel. If you try to be something else, I think it will eventually come out that you're faking it. And I personally would feel the content will be nicer and richer if you are true to yourself. So yeah, again, not the right person to be advising, but if I have to advise Nishant and you are a senior pro in football yourself, this would be my 3 advices.
Great. I think another question related to Kovalam FC. People definitely know your love for Kovalam FC, and again, kudos to the story that you've done on them. I mean, I've still bookmarked it. That's what I think. The last 2 things you mentioned in your previous answer is laziness, and that's what's happened. I mean, there's a lot of things bookmarked but not read, but I'll definitely get to it. But congratulations on an amazing story that you did on Kovalam FC. So here's a question from Ajay Menon, one of our boys. Hey Nevin, when do you think Kovalam FC will make it into the I-League or ISL?
Yeah, it's difficult question to answer. If given a choice, they'll get in tomorrow also. But one, they need to win the Kerala Premier League. So I think the focus should largely be on the state league first, because despite a lot of promise and despite, like I said, despite having a lot of talented players in their ranks, Kovalam has not really performed on the pitch. So I think the first focus would be to get a lot more positive results. I think even this KPL, they created a lot of chances, but they couldn't score. And unfortunately, they had a leaky defense as well. So That will be the primary focus. There is, again, I think we did discuss this in the podcast, that there is a not conflict of interest. I think there are two paths, because the Core FC management is more keen on developing a very good academy with international tie-ups and sort of setting up the platform for these kids to go and play in other ISL and I-League teams. While Coach Eben Rose, also the founder of the club, he wants his own team, and I think rightly so, because we can't afford to have another senior team disappear. We need more and more opportunities for senior teams at the top level. So somewhere in between, I guess, is the right path, and hopefully they'll find it out. So I can't really say. I mean, it can happen tomorrow, it can happen 10 years later, but I think they will eventually get there.
Okay, next question now, more so related to the content part. What would be your top 3 tips for content creators who are just starting out?
Oh my God, I think that's the same answer that I gave for Nishant. And I'm nobody to give advices. Like, who am I? I've just there's a football channel with like 1,500 subscribers. That's really not a high number. I think just stay true to yourself, yeah. Because if your goal is to get followers, if that is a revenue stream for you, do it. Don't feel that people are going to judge you for creating cringe content or fast content or something. You need to understand your channel, and really it's up to you to create the content. So people will obviously keep saying a lot, but if you know what you really want, that really helps, I guess. With Kalpant, I was very clear that I'm not trying to take some, I'm superior and I knew what I had some inner peace or something. That's not what I'm trying to say. I've had my own doubts. I have thought I should go and get a lot of content. I've tried to do 5 best things for Indian football, all those SEO sort of content, but eventually I sort of realized that my gratification comes from these stories affecting people, and I can afford that right now because I had another job, or I was earning parallelly. So this was like a sort of a pet project, and I wanted to preserve it. I didn't want it to go the route of other football channels. So again, I'm nobody to judge. Whatever it is that you want, have a clear goal, and I think keep working on it. I think that's the only thing I can say, because I literally have no credentials to be advising people.
Okay, well, that question was from Vinay, and we have 2 more. The other one is, again, we know this person. I'm back to Twitter now. Krishnan, by the Twitter handle KrishG1990. So he asked, what did you enjoy most creating content for, Kalpant or doing all those videos for Happyano?
What is with these tough questions again? I really can't pick. I think in terms of video making process and the whole the aftermath and the reactions and all, I kind of like Kalpant the more, because I've had time to spend. A lot of Kalpant stories are products of me spending time at these locations. So be it Kovalam, be in Vyasarpadi, be in Gujarat, there is some time I've spent at these locations. So that way it was most satisfying. But Happyano was a crazy ride. So it was like a roller coaster ride. So how can you not enjoy a roller coaster ride also, right? So there's a lot of happening there. I think post the elections, I think a colleague in Happyano put out a tweet thread. And my only response, or I quote tweeted saying, I've not really had time to process this because so much happened. Like to drive the entire state itself is a Herculean task. To make videos also in the process, to meet people, hear their stories, to plan, to eat good food. And mind you, we're driving through Kerala, which is one of the most prettiest locations across the world. So mountains, beaches, exotic locations. So a lot to process. So I still feel I can only talk about Happyano, say some 2 months later, when I've had time to sit with some tea and ponder about those magical incidents, and then probably I'll know the real answer to this question. But if you ask me right now, I think Kalpant was more satisfying as a pure video making process.
You've done well on this, and I must say that brings us to the final thing. And this would have been my question also. This is my final question to you. But our dear friend Naveen Peter has also asked you. with a very fun instance that says he's tagged you and he asked you happy or no. So you know what he did there. So, that was my concluding question to you as well. So Nevin, happy or no?
This so Naveen's good friend Nidesh was part of the project, Happy Ano project. It was, in fact, it was his brainchild. So Nidesh kept being asked this question from a lot of people, okay, especially early part of the journey. When you ask this Happy Ano, they just sometimes ask the question back. And Nidesh's standard response was, I am doing this job as a journalist, or rather, the best part of being a journalist is that I get to ask the question and not really reply. So Happy Ano was fun because I get to ask people Happy Ano and nobody gets to ask me the same question. But yeah, I mean, considering the situation that we are in, there, I mean, it's not been really great for us journalists out there, and in terms of the political climate of the country, also, I I've not really liked what is going on. So those things are definitely an issue in terms of opportunities for young people. I know a lot of people who are jobless, and especially in this field, especially in media, it's been really harsh, especially in the last 1.5 years. So that way, I'm not really happy. But I think the best part of Happy Ano was that we met a lot of people. I can particularly remember this instance in Wayanad where we went to this sort of a tea shop near a tea plantation. And we were talking to people, and most of them had no jobs, and they had lost their jobs during the lockdown. Yet they were surprisingly happy. They were just like, yeah, happy. I mean, I'm getting food to eat, so why should I be worried? And I think that was a sort of a serendipitous moment for me as well. I was like, shit, I have all the privileges. I have a house. My parents are okay, thankfully, touch wood, and I really have no right to be complaining and cranky all the time. So, so if you put those things in perspective, then definitely happy Anand, which means happy. Yes, I'm happy, but yeah, I think somewhere in between, I guess.
Well, great then. I have nothing but wishes, best wishes and loves for you and for all the projects that's up, in the bank has yet to be published, and all the best wishes. I hope that I hope to see Happy Ono continue, have a second season, or maybe come back with something else. And always would love to see Kalpan there. Gets me also going, saying, hey, I have to do some story. This is kind of, it's also envious.
I think that's what I really like about Indian football. Humans of Indian football. There is the Footy Traveler. There's Superpower Football, and there's a lot of upcoming channels as well. Probably not with the same set of following. And I think we all motivate each other. It's a nice circle to be in. And I was talking to Chiranjeev the other day. He was also saying like how we all need to back each other up and sort of push each other. I think when the other person is on a low, I think we need to keep reminding each other that hey, keep doing it. The in football fraternity is growing, and eventually it will pay off.
Yeah, I think at least the people at the top are not doing that, so I might as well we do that. Well, finally, thank you so much, Nevin, for taking time. And it was a great chat, and I think it was a long time coming, and finally we made it.
And not just you, the entire team. I think thank you for doing what you do with Humans of Indian Football. I think it's that refreshing take that we've really lacked in Indian football content as well. So thank you for doing it, and please keep doing it.
Yes, we'll keep that in mind, and thank you so much for the kind words. All the listeners, thank you for your patience, and hope you enjoyed this show. And it was indeed something new that we tried, and hope you liked it. This was episode number 17 of the Totally Indian Football Show, featuring our very own Nevin Thomas. Do go subscribe to Kalpant, go give a follow to Happy Ano, and I assure you good stuff from there. You'll definitely not be not happy after watching these content. So once again, thank you to all our listeners, and please follow and subscribe to all the audio platforms that we are on, like the Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we're also available on Humans of Indian Football YouTube channel. Finally, once more, I would like to say thank you, Nevin. Thank you.
Thanks, Aju. Bye.